This might be the best time to play Pokemon Pocket ever. The largest tournament that happens every week is currently wrapping up its first day, so we're starting to see the best decks to come out of that tournament, the best decks in the meta, and there's a lot of really cool stuff going on with deck building right now. So I'm excited to show you some of these lists, give you the best decks in the meta at the moment, and if you guys are looking for more content like this, you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So let's just very briefly talk about the metagame for this tournament. Now, this tournament is over 1,000 players. A lot of people playing it here. The number one most played deck is Solgaleo Skarmory, but it's only coming in at a 12.5% meta share. That is a drastic change from just the last tournament that happened, where Darkrai Giratina in the Shining Revelry format made up 33% of the meta. So there's a lot more diversity here. That could change as people figure out like what the actual best decks are. This could just be a symptom of it being early on in the meta. People want to try all these different decks and things aren't really quite established. Next up, we have Charizard EX Incineroar. Second most played deck, doing fairly well, 50% win percentage. Solgaleo Skarmory at a 48% win percentage. The tough thing about Solgaleo Skarmory is there's a lot of people playing the deck, so you're gonna have people who are not so great at the game playing it, and then you're gonna have the good people playing the deck, and so it's hard to tell, like, should that win percentage be higher? Could it be higher if only the best players were on Solgaleo EX Skarmory? Now, from what I looked at, from what I was going through and checking all the standings as of right now, there does seem to be less Solgaleo Skarmory in there than I would like to see. There's still quite a bit, but for it being the most played deck, I would expect to see a little bit more. So maybe the deck is underperforming in this current meta. Now back to Charizard EX Incineroar. So the main takeaway here for Charizard Incineroar is look at Charizard and look at Incineroar. 41% win percentage, 38%, almost 39% win percentage. It's very clear these decks are not meant to be played on their own. You need to bundle the Charizard or the Incineroar with some other card. Even like Charizard EX Turtonator, 43% win percentage. It seems like the best way to play the Charizard and Incineroar is together. And usually in those lists, you're playing the double Charizard line and then a 1/1 Incineroar just as another attacker, another option for you. But yes, very clearly, do not play these two alone because it's not doing fantastic. Now, next up, we got to talk about Giratina Darkrai. So there are still some people playing the deck, and it's coming in at a 60% win percentage. I had this fear at the start of the meta that all you would really need to do with Giratina Darkrai is throw some more hand disruption in, and the stage 2s would start to struggle. And I'll tell you, it's everywhere in Master Ball. It is almost all I see still, and I love it when they get to go first, and I see them use a research, and I'm like, oh, all right, I get to hold on to my hand. I didn't get Mars, and then they hit me with a red card. And then I go, all right, cool. That was a fun game. I enjoyed playing it with you. I enjoyed playing that game with you. Very courteous and respectable opponent, but it's doing very well. Now maybe this is because the people just know how to play Giratina Darkrai. Lists are essentially figured out. You just have to add a couple new cards. It's a proven thing. Maybe as the meta develops, we see people warp Solgaleo Skarmory, they change Charizard Incineroar, whatever. They change those decks up so they have a better time dealing with Giratina Darkrai, but it might just be the fact that them putting in that Oricorio into the list to wall and adding more hand disruption makes it really hard for evolving decks to overcome. So we have this Giratina X Snorlax deck next. 55% win percentage, which is really good. This deck kind of popped up out of nowhere. It got top 8 at the other large tournament that just wrapped up yesterday. And it seems like a lot of people hopped on the deck and wanted to give it a try. And I gotta say, it's my favorite deck in the format right now. I really love it. Last thing I want to touch on from this is that Meowscarada seems to be doing pretty poorly. Decidueye Meowscarada, it's the, 6th, 7th most played deck. 43% win percentage. It's hard to find other Meowscaradas. Meowscarada Tsareena, 40% win percentage. It's not looking good for Meowscarada right now. I think it probably just struggles with like Charizards. It is also liable to be hand disrupted by Giratina Darkrai. It just doesn't seem to be in the best spot right now, which is a little bit unfortunate because Meowscarada is very fun. So now that we've taken a look at the metagame, just seeing what's going on, let's go take at some of those really interesting lists I was talking about. So the first list we're going to look at is a Arceus Crobat list. I really like this one. So you have Arceus and Crobat, and then you have a couple different walls to choose from. You're going to notice there's a lot of Oricorio teched into list right now. It is just a really great buffer between turns for you. If your opponent ever gets into a situation where there is no clear threat to Oricorio, you know it's going to be able to survive a turn because there's just no non-EX Pokemon that can damage it. It is a really, really cool card to include into list and makes games just a lot more skilled. You got to always be wondering about the Oricorio and how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to get around it, because a deck like Darkrai Crobat, it can get to a point in the game where they just put that Oricorio in the active spot, and if you've already used your Cyrus and your Sabrina, you have no way to access the bench. They could just win by going Crobat, Ping, Darkrai over and over and over, and eventually your Pokemon are going to be knocked out. They're going to take the final points they need. So you have the option between the Oricorio to wall, the Giratina to wall, and then you have the Darkrai and the Crobat to do chip damage while you build up the Arceus. Very, very cool. I love Arceus decks just because look at all these options here. We have lots of damage. We have ways to make our opponent really struggle to play around what we're doing. Very cool. I'm a big fan. We're gonna show another Arceus Crobat list here, just a little bit different. So we're using Arceus and then Kangaskhan as a little bit of a just an early game attacker. Get some damage on. The Kangaskhan's damage can add up when you have a Darkrai pinging and a Crobat pinging. The Kangaskhan goes from being a terrible meme card to something that's very, very scary. One thing I'm surprised to see out of these lists is there is none of the Ilima supporter, and I only say I'm surprised because I've been running into it quite a bit on ladder, and it has been very, very annoying to deal with. Your opponent can attack with the Arceus and then just go Ilima, attach to it, and then put something else in the active spot. Like, you could do it with the Oricorio deck. You could have an Ilima in here, pick up the Arceus, push forward the Oricorio, and then just start attacking to the Arceus again, get him ready for another attack while you're doing your chip damage. So, surprised to not see it out of these tournament decks, but both of these did very, very well. So, obviously, what do I know? Yet another Oricorio list. We have Oricorio plus Greninja and Darkrai. And I can say, I have no idea what energy they're playing in this deck. Like, no clue. They don't say it for the tournament. I could see them doing Dark plus Water. Maybe just Dark for the Darkrai, and all you plan on attacking with is the Darkrai, and the Oricorio really is just here to be that buffer while you're building up your Pokemon. Maybe they go Dark Electric. I don't think you would go... Again, you could go Dark Water just to get some value out of the Greninja, but if you're playing 2 Darkrai, it might just be Dark, so you can continually ping the damage every single turn and actually get your main attacker powered up. I would guess this is just a Dark deck, and there's no other energy being played. But just goes to show you, having the Oricorio not being a non-attacker seems to be the way to go. The Magnezone Oricorio deck is doing fine. It's doing decent in tournaments, but you're seeing a lot more of the top performing decks using Oricorio just as that buffer for the early game. It's very, very cool to see. Very cool to see. Because, again, the meta is in a spot where there is not a lot of Cyrus or Sabrina. There's, some decks opt for just one Cyrus, one Sabrina. Some of them have the 1/1 line, and after you've used that Sabrina will even be valueless if your opponent has both Oricorio in play. The Sabrina ends up not being able to do anything. So it's kind of hard to access the bench right now. I don't know how we adapt from there because it is tough. You can run double Cyrus, but there's no guarantee you're going to be able to damage all of those Pokemon in play in the future. So Oricorio, we might just have to start seeing decks include more 1-point Pokemon, well, non-EX Pokemon, into their decks. Last Oricorio list I'm going to show you, I swear, Greninja Oricorio and Giratina. The one of Shaman. Now, I played against this deck on ladder, and I believe they were playing Water Energy and Lightning Energy, and then just letting the Giratina power itself up on the bench through its own means. And it was very, very annoying. When they popped that Shaman down, I was playing Solgaleo Skarmory, and I hit the Oricorio for 50, and I'm like, all right, I'm about to knock it out. And then they Iridud plus Shaman, whatever, just got it completely out of range. I was so sad. I was so sad. And then using the Lightning Energy, you can start attacking with the Oricorio and dealing with the Pokemon, the one-price Pokemon in front of you. So this list also pretty cool. Again, I just really love the idea of using Oricorio as walls. The games end up becoming very long, and they are very, very skill intensive. You have to really be thinking on how to deal with this Oricorio. It is not easy to play around. I've been playing the TCG for quite a while. Safeguard is not a new ability to me, so I have a little bit of a better understanding on how to play against it. So you might be able to just farm some players who haven't quite figured out how they're supposed to deal with the Oricorio, how to manage their resources properly, and get some free wins out of it. So I just want to talk about this very quickly. Mewtwo Gardevoir. There's a player doing very well with it right now, and it's really cool to see Mewtwo come back. Now that Mewtwo is not good, or not as good as it was back in Genetic Apex when it was the best deck, and then in, what was it, Mythical Island format was also just about the best deck, right next to Gyarados. Now that he's kind of niche and rogue, I like seeing Mewtwo. It's nice to see him come back into the format. But again, just very bare bones. 2-2 Gardevoir line, and then the 2 Mewtwo, and that's all you're playing, and you're saying that's enough. So, cool to see Mewtwo. If you missed the guy, give him a run back. Seems like he's doing okay. Now, this one was really cool to me. So, Solgaleo and Excavalier. Now, what the Excavalier does is it, for 1 energy, does 30 damage, and then snipes 20 to the bench. You just choose where you want that 20 damage to go. I really like this idea. There are times in games where the Solgaleo really just needs to one-shot whatever Pokemon is in front of it. You can't, there's just no time to do the 2-shot thing. The Solgaleo is going to get knocked out in return, and there's no real way to build up damage on it early besides like a Skarmory, but you know, there's usually not a way to access that big Pokemon you're trying to get after. So having the Excavalier, which can damage the active just a little bit, you don't need too much chip damage on the active Pokemon, and then deal 20 to the bench is super cool. Also, playing the double Cyrus, so after Excavalier attacks, you can go in with Solgaleo and just pick exactly what you're going to attack into for 120. I really like this list. I'm excited to try it out. I hope it works well. This person in the tournament is doing fantastic right now, and just cool. I wrote off Excavalier. I didn't think we'd see it get any value. But yeah, it's doing great, and it seems like a really fun deck to play. I love pinging the bench with damage. It is extremely fun, really makes you think. This one was kind of just interesting to see. We actually have a lone Tsareena deck doing very well with that 1 Celebi in the back end. I guess, you know, from a deck building perspective, it makes sense. Tsareena attacks for 1 energy. You can then use all of that extra energy to attach to the Celebi, get him powered up for a big late game attack. I don't know that I'll be trying it. This is really, really coin flippy. Every single attack in here besides Bound Sweep is based on a coin flip, and I don't love it. I like when my attacks are guaranteed, but it is just cool to see the Tsareena plus the Mallow actually come into play somewhere, because being able to heal all of your damage from Tsareena and then just attach again and start attacking as if nothing ever happened. Again, I'll be staying away from this list. I don't like coin flips that much, so but if you're brave, you want to gamble, try this one out. So we'll just talk about this one real quickly for all of the Gallade believers out there. The best performing Gallade list as of right now is this Gallade Rampardos. Now, you guys know how I feel about Rampardos. I don't love when I got the dinosaur in my hand, but I don't have his bones. I hate when I cannot find the bones, so I'm going to stay away from it. Gallade, I'm sorry. I probably won't touch you much this format. There is a typical Gallade Hitmonlee doing decently right now at the moment as well, but this is the better performing Gallade list. There is just so much Greninja stuff going around, and this is one of the coolest. This list also doing exceptional in the tournament right now, and it's Greninja with Pyukumuku and then a 1 of Palkia. So, Pyukumuku. You put him in the active spot. If your opponent knocks him out, they take 50 damage. 5 damage counters. However you want to say it. It's actually damage, not damage counters. I don't even know. Do we have damage counters in this game yet? I don't think we do. We just have damage. Anyways, Pyukumuku is a really scary wall. The only problem you ever run into with Pyukumuku is, you know, he's only 3 Darkrai pings away from getting knocked out. You do have the Irida to heal him up and just try to force your opponent to go through him, but between the Pyukumuku threatening the 50 damage and then the Greninja constantly sniping, all while you're just building up a Palkia in the back, this deck seems like a lot of fun to play, and I'm very excited to try it out. I lied when I said we were done with the Oricorio. I forgot I had this one in here. Now, it's just like all the other Oricorios I showed you, but this one focuses on being a little bit better into Darkrai Giratina because we have the onboard heal of Wigglytuff. We're just going to heal 20 damage from our Oricorio every single turn. I gave the deck a try earlier in the day, and it was fine. It's just a lot of moving pieces. You're trying to find your Greninja. You're trying to find your Wigglytuff. And then you need your Oricorio, of course, as well. But I had some very funny moments where my board state was double Wigglytuff with that horrible art, and Oricorio in the active spot, and a Greninja on the bench. And then, you know, you get your opponent has conceded. And it's just very, very funny to win with a board state like that. It looks miserable for the opponent. So figured I'd show you it so you guys can go try and terrorize the leaderboards, or the ladder as well. We talked about Charizard Incineroar at the beginning. Just want to show you the list, kind of the ideas of what's going on with it. Usually the way people are playing it are with 2 Lily, and I actually, the list I've been playing had a Guzma instead of the red. They're almost the same, right? You're going to use the red to guarantee a knockout through a giant cape or something like that. And the Guzma just removes the giant cape. I might like the Guzma more because there are also times where the Charizard cannot afford attacking into say a Darkrai with a Rocky Helmet, because your opponent's Giratina is just going to come up and one-shot the Charizard right after that if you don't have the cape. So I'm a little bit more partial to the Guzma, to be honest. Again, it's like essentially the same thing for most scenarios, right? Like even a Solgaleo. If a Solgaleo has a cape, but it attacks first, it's going to go down to 190 HP, and then you use Guzma, and then it's down to 170, and then Charizard just one-shots it. So I think I'm more partial to the Guzma, but this is the list that's performing the best at the moment. Okay, buckle in. It is Giratina, Snorlax, Greninja time, and I just want to show you a couple of the lists that are doing very well. So there's a lot of people doing well with the deck in the tournament right now, but there are a few different ways to play it. So this list has 2 Snorlax, that's always going to be there. 2 Greninja, that's always going to be there. But the difference has been between the Giratina, this Tapu Lele, and whether you run Irida or Ilima. Now this deck, I would wager, is probably Psychic and Water. It might just be Psychic and you ignore the Greninja entirely. I really like having the Greninja as an option. Me personally, I've been trying out Water/Psychic, and it feels really good because we usually only play one of Giratina. If you don't find him in the early game, it's nice to know I can start building up the Giratina without having to Broken Space Bellow, or even if I do have to Broken Space Bellow, if my energy are cooperating, I can power him up twice as fast. And then the Tapu Lele is just very, very cool here, right? It's going to do 20 to one of your opponent's Pokemon based on how many energy they have on it. So you can be doing 60 damage to the bench, 80 damage to the bench, depending on what is there. I really like it as a tech option. I think it's a very, very cool card to include in this list because you can be Greninja pinging and using Tapu Lele and just really pressuring the bench. Super, super cool card. And like I was talking about, there is the regular version. This is kind of the most standard one, where you just use the 2 Greninja, 2 Snorlax, and then the 1 Giratina. Then you run an Irida, and then a couple of the damaging tool cards. I actually want to see, did they get rid of? Yeah, they have none of the damaging tool cards, but 1 giant cape instead. Very, very interesting list. I'll have to give that one a try and see how I feel about it over the other one. And then I'll show you one last one, which is using double Giratina and 2 Pokemon Center ladies. This list could just be a straight Psychic version. If we're not playing any Irida, we're just using Pokemon Center ladies. They don't tell you what the energies are, so both would work, right? Playing just Psychic would work. Playing Psychic and Water to try to get some value out of the Greninja would also work. Now take a look at this. So I'm familiar with the Lycanroc Rampardos deck, but this one is a very unique take on it. 1/1 Rockruff Lycanroc line. So you're going to start the Rockruff, and then you're going to use Signs of Evolution to find the Lycanroc. But that's it. Other than that, you're just looking for your fossils. So you have the Aerodactyl in here, and I really love the Aerodactyl. I think Aerodactyl probably causes a huge headache for any evolving deck right now, and is also just a good end-of-the-game attacker. It's pretty difficult to try to find double Rampardos. You know, you'll go through the Lycanroc and then you'll get the Rampardos. That Rampardos doesn't win you the game. It can be very difficult to find the second Rampardos to win. So just having this extra attacker in here that's meant for the late game is pretty cool. I like it more than the second Lycanroc, honestly. It's tough to get all of the energy on the Lycanroc that you need, and by the end of the game, the Lycanroc value starts to go down a little bit. You know, it doesn't have a lot of HP. It does do 100 damage if they have more HP than it, so that's good, but it's not really going to survive any hit. And the additional benefit of Aerodactyl just causing a huge headache for other evolving decks is really, really interesting. This is the last deck I'm going to show you because I know a lot of people are believers in Garchomp. Now, unfortunately, this one is not doing as well as any of the other decks I showed you in tournament. There is still a chance it makes day 2, but they really are going to have to try. And this is the best performing Garchomp out there right now. Garchomp is one of those decks that I play against in Master Ball a little bit more often than I probably should because I've not dropped a game against Garchomp. It has not happened yet. I don't believe in the card. I don't like it's 2 stage 2s, Garchomp and Rampardos. The Rampardos is just tough to find because of the fossil. And Garchomp is not doing all that much. Yeah, if you get him online fast, it can be really scary for some of these slower decks. But if you don't, it's not like Garchomp is going to win you the game through anything other than just being way faster than your opponent. And if it isn't way faster, you're going to really struggle in that mid to late game. That's going to be it for the meta roundup of this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more content like this, again, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks. Have a good one.